The dawn over early 1900s New York City was rarely a gentle affair. It was a reluctant unveiling, pulling back a thick, coal smoke-stained curtain from a stage of relentless ambition in shadowed corners. Gas lamps still hissed on many streets, casting flickering, uncertain light. Their glow painted the cobblestones with an oily sheen, reflecting the hurried footsteps of a million souls. Each person chased a dream, or perhaps fled a nightmare. The air, thick with the smells of industry, horse manure and street food, hummed with a nervous energy. This was a place where fortunes were made overnight, and just as quickly could vanish into the grimy alleys. Beneath the towering skeletons of new skyscrapers, a different kind of construction was always underway. This was the architecture of deceit, built not with steel and stone, but with whispers and forged papers. The city throbbed with a pulse of opportunity, a siren song that lured the hopeful and the desperate alike. For every honest laborer carving out a life, there was another figure lurking in the half-light, skilled in the art of illusion. These men understood the city's hidden currents, the desires that gnawed at its inhabitants. They knew that in a place so grand, so overwhelming, people could be made to believe almost anything, especially if it promised a piece of the impossible dream. This was the New York that George C. Parker knew. The Brooklyn Bridge, completed in 1883, was more than just a crossing. It was a declaration. Its Gothic towers, like stone sentinels, pierced the sky, a testament to human endeavor and engineering prowess. Its steel cables, spun with meticulous care, formed a delicate yet immensely strong web against the heavens. Walking across its wooden promenade offered a breathtaking panorama of the burgeoning city, a view that whispered of limitless potential. For many, it symbolized connection, progress, and the indomitable spirit of New York. Further south, standing guard in the harbor, was the Statue of Liberty. A gift from France unveiled in 1886, Lady Liberty held her torch aloft, a beacon of hope for the millions who sailed past her towards a new life. Her copper skin, slowly weathering to a distinctive green, shone in the sunlight, a promise of freedom and opportunity. Then there was Madison Square Garden, not the one we know today, but its grand predecessor. The second iteration, opened in 1890, was a magnificent palace of entertainment designed by Stanford White. Inside, it hosted everything from boxing matches and circuses to lavish balls and political conventions. These landmarks were not merely structures, they were woven into the fabric of New York's identity. It was this very public ownership, this shared sense of awe, that would become the fertile ground for George C. Parker's audacious imagination. George C. Parker was born into a world already brimming with hustle and the quick sell. His exact origins are somewhat murky, a fitting start for a man who would make a career of obscuring the truth. What is clear is that he possessed an innate understanding of human psychology from a young age. He was a keen observer of people, noticing their desires, their vanities, and most importantly, their weaknesses. He learned early on that confidence was a currency more valuable than gold, and a well-told story could open almost any door. His early life likely involved a series of smaller cons, apprenticeships in the art of deception. Parker was not a man of brute force. His weapon was his charm, his seemingly earnest demeanor, and his ability to project an air of absolute conviction. The New York of his youth was a crucible for such talents. Information was not as readily available as it is today, and a convincing liar with a plausible story could operate with considerable freedom. Parker understood the power of official-looking documents, the allure of a secret deal, and the intoxicating prospect of acquiring something extraordinary for a bargain. The Brooklyn Bridge was George C. Parker's masterpiece, the con that etched his name into criminal folklore. He reportedly sold it multiple times, perhaps as often as twice a week for years. His approach was a masterclass in audacity and psychological manipulation. He targeted wealthy tourists or naive newcomers, impressed by the city's grandeur. Parker approached them with quiet authority, hinting he was a disgruntled city official. He backed his claims with impressively forged documents. These papers, complete with seals and elaborate script, granted ownership of the Brooklyn Bridge. He spoke of immense profits from toll booths the new owner could erect. He painted a vivid picture of control and revenue tapping into the victim's greed. The sheer improbability of the offer worked in his favor, bypassing rational thought. The sums varied, sometimes a few $100s, sometimes thousands. Once the money changed hands, Parker vanished, leaving the owner to discover the truth. The police were familiar with the scam, but Parker was always one step ahead. George C. Parker, after his Brooklyn Bridge success, set his sights on other New York landmarks. His ambition knew no bounds. The Statue of Liberty became another prize in his portfolio. Parker convinced Marx he had exclusive rights to sell it. He'd take buyers on boat trips around Liberty Island. Madison Square Garden also fell under his fraudulent purview. Parker's performance was impeccable, his confidence unwavering. He even reportedly sold Grant's tomb. Museums, public squares, and city parks were also part of his illusory empire. For years, George C. Parker operated like a ghost in the bustling machine of New York City. He was a master of disguise and quick changes, often altering his appearance and name to evade detection. However, even the most skilled illusionist cannot maintain the act forever. The sheer number of his victims, particularly those sold the Brooklyn Bridge, began to create a pattern. Disgruntled owners attempting to erect toll booths or question police officers about their new property became a recurring, if somewhat comical, headache for the authorities. The whispers about a man selling landmarks grew louder, evolving from street corner gossip to official police reports. Detectives began to piece together descriptions, modus operandi, and the various aliases Parker employed. While he was adept at vanishing, the consistency of his scams provided clues. Each duped investor, each embarrassed tourist, added another thread to the tapestry of evidence being woven against him. The city, once his playground, was slowly becoming a more dangerous place for George C. Parker. The shadows he had used to his advantage could no longer fully conceal his activities. George C. Parker was arrested multiple times throughout his audacious career. His early encounters with the law often resulted in short sentences or acquittals, perhaps due to a lack of concrete evidence, the charm he could deploy even in a courtroom, or the sheer disbelief that someone could perpetrate such outlandish scams. He was a slippery defendant, adept at playing the system, sometimes feigning ignorance or even indignation at the charges leveled against him. These early trials were mere skirmishes in a longer war he was waging against societal norms and the legal establishment. However, as his notoriety grew and the evidence mounted, the legal system became less forgiving. One significant arrest occurred in 1908, leading to a conviction that saw him spend time in Sing Sing prison. But Parker was not one to be easily contained. He reportedly escaped from custody on more than one occasion, once allegedly by simply walking out wearing a guard's coat and hat he had somehow acquired. These escapes only added to his legend, painting him as an almost mythical figure, always one step ahead of the authorities, a phantom trickster. The trials themselves must have been quite the spectacle. Imagine the courtroom, gas lamps casting long shadows, the murmur of the public gallery, as witnesses recounted their bewildering encounters with Parker. In 1928, George C. Parker's luck finally ran out for good. He was convicted of fraud and sentenced to life imprisonment. Sent to Sing Sing, a stone fortress on the Hudson River. The gray walls of Sing Sing contrasted with the vibrant city he once roamed. For a man who thrived on freedom, a life sentence was the ultimate defeat. Inside Sing Sing, Parker was just another inmate, stripped of his fine clothes and forged documents. The grand stage of New York City was replaced by prison life. Even in prison, stories about Parker circulated. He became a legend among the incarcerated. Did he feel remorse or pride in his ability to dupe so many? George C. Parker died in Sing Sing in 1936. He spent his last 8 years behind bars, a quiet end for a notorious con man. The story of George C. Parker is more than just amusing anecdotes about a clever con artist. It serves as a commentary on human frailties of greed and gullibility. Parker's genius lay in understanding the desire to get something for nothing. He sold a fantasy, a shortcut to status or wealth. Parker's legacy is a cautionary tale about trust. Con artists exploit trust, turning it into a weapon. His story reflects the balance between ambition and ethics.